You're listening to the Off Balance Podcast, where faith, family, and business collide. Hosted by Brooks Deming, Doctor of Business Administration, business coach, and resilience expert. Each episode features real-life conversations to help entrepreneurs like you build resilience and lead with confidence.
Welcome back to Off Balance. I'm your host, Dr. Brooks. Today's guest is someone who brings wisdom, clarity, and compassion to the conversation around mindset and mental resilience. Richard Waldman is a retired Army veteran, author, and clinical pastor based in Cape Coral, Florida. With decades of experience navigating both the battlefield and the complexities of human emotion, Richard has developed a powerful framework called the Order to Life Circle, a self-educating system designed to help people manage judgmental inner chatter, reshape their thinking, and live more intentionally. Richard, welcome to Off Balance.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm excited.
Thank you so much for joining us. Before we dive into our conversation, can you introduce yourself to our listeners and share a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
I'm a life coach, clinical pastor. However, my past, I have a degree in accounting, which didn't work for me. And I was always kind of looking for what I was doing. And I came across this biblical quote that says, if you bring out what is within you, what you bring out will save you. If you do not bring out what is within you, which you do not bring out will destroy you. And so I was searching, and luckily my degree in accounting paid off. I had an opportunity to go to this seminar. I had to do with the financial calculator that came out, and I had bought a piece of property, bought a home, and I was interested in learning this stuff. Well, I went to this seminar, one thing led to another, and it was a 2-part seminar. And that night I went home, I'm working, they give you an outline, and I saw something in the outline. I thought they could have made it be a little simpler. So I thought, I wonder if I should say anything to the teacher the next day. I decided to. Great guy. Right. He turns to me, says, you want a job? I said, what do you mean, do I want a job? He says, we're looking for somebody to teach this class. He says, what's your background? I said, well, I'm an accountant. He says, you're perfect. He says, I said, I don't understand. He says, the fellow who designed this, it was for a title insurance company. He's not with us anymore. And we had booked the class. And so I was the next guy to teach it. We're looking for somebody to do this, and we wanted to develop some more classes. One thing led to another. He said, look, we were a small company. Our president is a great guy. You got to meet him. You got to at least talk to him. And so how could I say no? He made the appointment. We hooked up. The energy was there. And he says, Richard, hey, would you like to come on board? And it was just like that. It's like it came out of the ether. That started it all. I started getting involved, and I found out that I love teaching. I love getting in front of a group. I love educating, and I love making things simple so people can understand them. There's a term I heard years ago, a zingo. You ever heard of a zingo, Brooke?
I have not.
Information flying over your head at supersonic speeds. Many times we hear things, but we don't really, like you were saying, we don't really understand it, and we learn through repetition. So anyway, it worked out. We use it as a marketing tool. In other words, let's say, for example, you're a realtor and we're a title insurance and you direct business to us. But if I can go in your office and show you something of value, how to use your financial calculator, that will help you in your business, chances are we're going to start developing that relationship. And there was a philosophy that we had was exposure, comfort, relationships, business. But really, that's something we all go through. I want to meet somebody. You expose, you start getting comfortable. Maybe you're going to go out, have a date, and you start to relate. And then who do we do business with? People we have relationships with. So the strategy worked very well. And then some months later, I got a call from a stockbroker. He says, I understand you do these classes and you do them to generate business. He says, I work with attorneys and we work together on retirement plans, but I can't get in front of them. I can't go to their office and say, please talk to me. He said, would you meet with me? Can we talk? So one thing led to another. We got together. I said, bring all your stuff. And so we started putting the class together, and I sit down. What do you want to say? Why are you different? What is it that people need to know that maybe other people aren't? Then I showed them how to teach it. And there's a thing called Socratic teaching. Socrates was a student of Plato, and he learned that his students learn more if you would ask questions versus giving the students the answer. So I adopted that. And what I do is I create a very simple outline. Okay. And we get into the class and I might say, Brooke, can you tell the class what number one says? Well, the number one says, and so now you're well, who here heard, everyone here ever hear what Brooke said? Okay. And so we work together. And so the students are attentive. It's simple stuff, real simple. The class we put together, I taught the first half of it so he could see it. And he saw some other things I had done, but then got him going. And then an attorney called me. So this thing really developed. Then I did a presentation for a company. He says, Richard, are you a coach? You a life coach? And I says, no. I told him what I was doing. That sparked one thing. And I started navigating to that. And I knew I wasn't going to be here at the company forever. And other things started occurring to me. One of the courses I took when I was in college was a management course I had to have. And the teacher said something to the class that hit me. I never forgot. He said that the common ant has been around for roughly 110 million years. For one reason and one reason only, they work together. I thought of, and that we work, but we don't. And I kept thinking, why don't we work together? Why can't we get along? So these questions were going on for me for a long time. And finally, I got to a point, I was thinking more about these things that I fantasized, Brooke, that someone had called me up and said, Richard, we want you to create a class that explains why we can be so extraordinary and at the same time confused, self-serving, and destructive. And so that started it all. And I thought, we all suffer. We all suffer at different times, at different levels, over different things. And I thought, but we don't know why. And I thought, how complicated could this be if we all suffer? Surely we can figure this out. So that's what I started getting into, why we suffer. And the conclusion I came up to, Brooke, is the fact that we have a highly creative brain that has the ability to create on its own. For example, the image that we have of ourselves is we didn't create that, our brain did. Okay, but the problem with this is that the image that our brain created is an egocentric image, meaning it's judgmental by nature. The reason why we're so judgmental, and who do we judge more than anyone else? Ourselves. Is because we're living through that part of our personality that Jesus told us to lose. You have to lose yourself to find yourself. But I'm going, oh, wait a minute here. I'm a Jew. And then I tell people that this Jew ran into another Jew named Jesus. And I started getting very involved with his teachings. And he says, know what's in front of you. What is hidden will be revealed. All these things that I thought, I know what you're talking about. And so I included him. He's in my book. Is that these teachings are not new. And my whole shtick is that today's psychology is actually an extension of yesterday's theology. And I bring that into focus. Then I get into now to the healing aspect of it. Mm-hmm. People are looking for healers. Where are they? Where'd they go? And then I started getting involved with Jesus, some of the things that he did, how we thought, how he conducted himself, the basics of where I'm at and what I do. I try to help them understand that how they see it is not who they are. Another example of our brain creating on its own is, for example, they say we have over 6,200 thoughts a day. Do we take time out of our day to consciously think up these thoughts? Of course not. They're zipping through our head one after the other. And what about those nighttime dreams that are chaotic and nonsensical, where reality doesn't, are we involved in that? No, our brain is doing all of this. But the unfortunate thing, much of what our brain creates is out of sync with the rest of the universe. And so we're not aware of this. So that's why I got into the order to life. And I wanted to make it really simple that there are mental states that move us forward, and there are mental factors that hold us back. And it's just that simple. Because it's any more complicated than that.
So let's build on that. You took a course years ago, and you were able to recognize that course could have been simpler. How does that connect to your book?
Okay, let's back up here. Our greatest mental asset is our imagination. Our greatest mental process is staying curious. When you mix the two together, things started happening. I can have a great imagination, but if I'm not curious, I wasn't curious about maybe approaching the instructor, nothing would have happened. Or I maybe could have been curious, but not really understand exactly what I was dealing with. So when you bring those two together, you have to be conscious of these things. These mental assets that we have, the things that God gave us. We have to see it before we can create it. We have to see it first in our head. But we don't have the support either. That's the problem too. Support is so critical, Brooke, that we don't have. And one of the problems is we don't support each other because we're too busy judging each other. If we could do two very simple things, which is support each other instead of judging each other, the world would change in a heartbeat. Would change in a heartbeat if we did those two very simple things.
How do you apply that principle in our day-to-day, not being as judgmental?
When I was creating this circle, I was out of my element. And my wife said to me, Richard, are you in the circle or are you outside the circle? And I went, okay, direct hit, you got me. So what happens inside the circle, there's four things that move us forward. Starts with awareness. Awareness of what? Awareness that our personality has evolved in more than one direction. And Jesus said so when he says you have to lose yourself to find ourselves. And now I know what part of our personality I need to lose. It's the judgmental side that wants to hold me back. And unfortunately, how do I say, the judgmental side has a gatekeeper, the chatter in our head. Okay. The chatter also showed up in the story of Adam and Eve. Remember the serpent? Mm-hmm. The chatter is very much like a serpent. It has crawled its way into our psyche. It's stealthy. It's quiet. You don't see it. But on the other hand, it speaks with a forked tongue that can be deadly. And that's what our chatter is like. It doesn't say that, oh, Brooke, look how wonderful and how smart you are. And it doesn't say that. You're not good enough. You're not smart enough. Why try? Why don't you just keep on doing what you're doing and forget those hopes and dreams? You're not going to make it anyway. But this is what we hear. And we're afraid to share things with other people because we usually, oh, Brooke, what makes you think we don't get support anymore versus, hey, that's a great idea. Why don't you try it? Why don't you start? We don't hear that. When I was in high school, I was in gymnastics. I was on the rings. And bottom line was I was a junior. And there was a fellow named Bob. He was a senior. He was, I say, ahead of me. But I was gaining on him. Season had just started. I was laying in bed. And the thought came to me that I think I can beat Bob. Lo and behold, I walk on campus the next morning. Who do I run into? My coach. Hey, coach. Hey, Rich, how you doing? Hey, coach, you got a sec? Yeah, what's up? I says, I just had this thought that I can beat Bob. He looked at me. No one has ever said this to me in my life, not my parents or anybody. He looked at me, he said, Richard, I know you can. Oh, my God. I was floating for the rest of the day. He believes in me. Where do we go to get that? Where do we go to get that? And we hear more and more that how loneliness is becoming a major problem because we're behind our smartphones, we don't talk, and we're fearful of being judged more than anything else because we've been educated to be judgmental because we're living through that part of our personality that is judgmental. 2, stay present. Life only occurs in the present moment. I can't live in the future. I can't live in the past. All I can live is right now. And when I start connecting these right nows, I start having what's called everlasting life. And what it is also too, the chatter in our head uses this as a weapon. For example, the chatter in our head will take us into the future and beat us up with what if questions we can't answer. Bro, what if you lose your job? What if you can't pay your bills? What if? And when it tires of beating this up in the future, it'll drag us in the past where regrets are. Fears in the future, the past is about regret. Oh, Brooke, you should have done this. You should have kept that. You should have. And we're not aware that we're living in the future or the chatter in our head is bouncing us back and forth between the future and the past. And we wonder why we're neurotic, why life isn't working, because we don't know how to be present. And the present moment and the chatter in our head cannot exist at the same place at the same time. 3 is making a conscious choice. Thinking through what you might create if you act upon your current thinking. How many times have we said things, done things, we go the next, I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have acted that. How many times? Because we haven't thought it through. And I share with people, look, if you have the easiest bit of doubt, don't do it. And so to make people aware, because we create what our life is like. We put out crap, that's what we're going to have. If it's coming out, Jesus said, seek the kingdom first. Then I get into what that is as well. And it'll be added to you, but we're not aware of these things. No one taught us how to do these things. Last is connecting to what it is you love to do. I don't care what it is. Once again, if you bring out what is within you, what you bring out will save you. If you don't, it'll destroy you because you may want to do something, but no one supported you. You haven't tried yet. And we become frustrated. And because God, I want to do this, but I don't think I can do it. I don't have the money. I don't have the smarts. I just better give up and just keep on doing what I'm doing. So that's the part when I coach. If I can keep your mind in the forefront as things develop, now you can, hey, am I being aware? Am I being present? Am I making conscious choice? And am I connecting to what really works? So this is not rockets. It's real simple stuff.
It sounds like the chatter causes us to worry, causes us to have anxiety.
Oh, this is what, when Jesus talked about casting out demons, this is what he's talking about. The chatter in our head, the demons that show up. Now we'll go to the side that holds us back. First is judgmental by nature. Number one is judgment that works in conjunction with the chatter in our head. That has the evidence. You know, Brooke, remember the last time you failed? Remember the last time you did this? What? And then your friends are saying, look, evidence, well, look what happened. So it collects the evidence and we buy into it. Yeah, you're right. You're right. I did fail. You're right. Maybe forget it. Maybe I just need to. And then we unknowingly, we're living outside of the circle, having no idea whatsoever where life exists or life begins and it's right here in the middle. But no one has explained this to us or showed us that this is what's really going on. So I kept thinking sometimes, what would Jesus do? Because he was the ultimate teacher, the savior. What would he say? I met somebody and I was talking to him and he says, you're very easy to talk with or deal with. And I said, I learned something many years ago. Someone said, make it easy for people to do business with you, no matter what it is. Don't bust their chops. Make it easy. And so when you leave the conversation, you want it to be better than when you first started. So I'm always cognizant of that. What am I saying? What am I doing? Is the person feeling better or are they feeling worse after they leave me?
Yeah.
But that's in a nutshell of what I do.
For someone who grew up with people telling them you can't do it, and then they adopted that mindset of not being able to do it.
I will ask, are you willing to take responsibility for how you think? Okay, rule number one. Are you willing to take time to examine your thoughts? If we start there. If they say, well, then we have nowhere to go. Okay. But if they're willing to, hey, take responsibility, take a moment and examine what they're thinking, what's going on. Oh, okay, then we can go to the next step. And anytime anybody is having a negative thought or feeling, the first question they should ask themselves, what am I judging? Because I cannot have a negative thought or emotion or feeling until I judge something. That's why judgment is the most destructive mindset we can have, because you cannot have a negative thought or emotion until you judge something. So then now the person is like an audit trail when you go backwards. So in other words, now I'm having that emotion, I'm feeling negative. What am I judging that's sparking this feeling of negativity, of my emotion? Judgment is a function of our beliefs. See, the chatter in our head is the gatekeeper. And what Jesus said, it's done unto you as you believe. And we don't realize that the chatter in our head wants to protect those beliefs, as rotten as they are, because the chatter in our head knows if I get rid of those beliefs, I get rid of my chatter. And the chatter wants to live. Okay, here's a perfect example about creating. Years ago, on my website, I have what's called WordPress. And I'm in California at the time, living in the south of San Francisco. My WordPress guy didn't have anyone to refer me to or anything. And my wife said, what are you going to do? And I said, wait a minute here. So there's a website called Meet. So I want to meet up and I put WordPress developers or programmers. And this meeting popped up. Hey, there's going to be a seminar in San Francisco in a week or so with program developers at WordPress. And over 100 people have signed up to attend. I thought, that's where I'm going to go. And she says, but Richard, they're developers, so will they talk to you? I said, sure. She says, how are they going to meet you? How are you going to meet them if you're in a seminar? I says, you're going to help me. She says, she loved to work with papers. I says, in what way? You're going to create a sign for me, okay? And I'm going to wear this sign around my neck when I walk into the seminar. Okay, and we're going to see what happens. And she says, well, what's that sign going to say? And here's the actual sign. Help. Seeking word. This is it. Okay, got the little string going. So I go to the seminar, I put it over. I walk in. People are turning at me, pointing at me. They're walking. Within minutes, I had a stack of cards like this. They were lined up one after the, give me a call. I love to give me a call. Thank you. And so These are little creative things that we could do to create things. Once again, the inner creates the outer. And the question is, we have an imagination. And if you're curious, you can do all kinds of things. And so this is the fun part of life and the exciting part. Sometimes road A doesn't work, but many times road B is better. But you wouldn't have known that had you not decided to go down road A and been open to exploring road B. And that's another part of it. I encourage people, do your best and let it go.
That ties nicely into my next question because you walked us through how your system can help us recognize and manage that judgmental chatter. But how can your system help us build that mental resilience?
Are you tired of pushing forward but still feeling stuck? You've tried motivation, books, and other programs before, but consistency, boundaries, and resilience still feel out of reach. That's exactly why Dr. Brooks created the Rise coaching program. In just 8 weeks, you will walk through a proven framework to help you get rooted in purpose, identify boundaries, strengthen resilience, and execute with consistency. Imagine finally saying no without guilt, bouncing back faster from setbacks, and leading with the confidence you know you were created for. If you're ready to stop spinning your wheels and start building momentum, this is your moment. Visit brooksdeming.com to book your spot in the Rise coaching program today.
I know the universe is on my side. My resilience is if I believe I have it, it's there. When you start seeing the universe work, you start working with it. It's malleable. Okay, but you've got to believe, you've got to have a start. You've got to start somewhere. You've got to believe that, this is going to work. If you don't believe it, you're not going to do it. You have to be willing to step out of yourself, like Jesus said. You've got to let go of that part that's not working and embrace the part that does. And it's real simple stuff. So the resilience is, hey, look, swing the bat. You got to swing it again. You stay in the box. You don't give up. If you're doing what you love, there's no such thing as failure. Now, something may not have worked out right, only because the universe is telling you, you know what, this is not the way to go. The universe will work with you. Okay, but there again, you have to do your part. You can't sit on your rusty dusty and thinking, hey, things aren't working. Why do I not have all these wonderful things going on in my life? We were created in the image of God, meaning that we too have the power to create. And the universe will respond to us if we're willing to get off our backside and do what it is that we truly want to do.
Yes, we live in a time where we have so much access to other people, their lives by way of social media. So sometimes people can feel like they're not accomplished because they can see what other people have going on. Can you help us to learn a strategy that we can use to avoid making that mistake of comparison?
I'll tell you right off the bat, what that statement you just made was judgmental. You were judging, right? Weren't you judging that what was going on? We're not aware of the judgments that go on within us. Stop judging. Oh, I'm not judging anymore. The universe is perfect. It's whole. God created us. We are complete, but we don't see ourselves as complete because the chatter in our heads telling us all the time something is missing. We are complete. The judgment, I tell you, is the most destructive mindset you can have because we judge everything and everybody, and we judge more than ourselves. And once you start recognizing it, you'll see that it runs you because we've been educated to be judgmental. And I can't go over it, but there again, we live through that part of our person that is judgment. The other important thing is to learn how you're wired. We're all wired differently. There's no right or wrong. You have certain beliefs and feelings that maybe I have other ones, but you're not wrong because you do. But if you learn how your mind is wired, what your fears are, normally how do I normally react? Someone may say, you're afraid of that. What's wrong with you? So we just have to learn how our mind works.
For listeners that's juggling faith, family, and business, what's one simple but powerful mindset shift that they can make to feel more present and focused?
Well, and to be more present and focused, it takes a little practice. Every professional, they all practice. Attorney practices before he goes into the courtroom. The doctor practices on the cadaver before he operates. All professionals practice all the time. And so we just need ourselves as a professional. I'm a professional, and I'm here to conduct my life that gives me that whole feeling inside, that makes me feel connected, that makes me a part of what's going on. But there again, that's something that you have to decide what it is that you want. There's a ways to handle everything. It's how we manage it. When people start realizing these things, it's this joy comes in that they've never had before because they've never been in these places before.
So if someone's listening and they really like your framework, how would they be able to contact you?
When you go on my website, I have step 1 and 2. Step 1 and 2 explains much of what I'm sharing with you right now. And step 2 goes over the Orders of Life Circle. Now, what you hear me say on the website, you can download my script. You will have every word that you have heard. So now you can have it as a reference. You can download the circle with that in front of you. Once again, it's having reminders. It's like my coach sometimes in gymnastics, when people would fall off the equipment, he'd start yelling, "Get back up there, get back up there, get back up there." And later I said, "Why?" He said, "Rich, if I let them think about it, they won't do it." You're being around people that support you. See, that's the other thing. And I encourage people, whatever venue you want to work at, seek out those people that are in the place where you want to be. Seek out those people. There's groups, there's organizations, there's all kinds of things going on. We protect what we value. And if I can get you in an area, things that what you value, chances are things are going to happen because you value them and you enjoy doing them.
I am so glad to have this conversation with you. I know my listeners are probably having aha moments as well. And so, Richard, as we wrap up, what's one message or a piece of advice that you would leave with our listeners who may be navigating their own better way of thinking right now?
Once again, I'm going to say it, I value this more than anything. If you bring out what is within you, what you bring out will say is finding that gift that God gave you, that thing that sparks you, the thing that is the mover. That is the prime thing. And like I said, we were created in the image of God. We're here to create. We're here to empower each other. And how do we get the energy? Is we're back by having these exchanges. You will give energy to some, and they will give energy back to you. And this is back and forth that keeps us going, that creates meaning to life, that gives meaning to life. And it doesn't get any more complicated than that. Just be who you are, be out there, have fun, enjoy yourself, laugh a lot, and have fun. One last thing, I'll leave you real quick here. I was married first time about 7 years. And the lady I got married a second time. We hooked up like best friends. It was just one of those things. And we were decided to get married. And she says, "Richard, you know what?" She says, "I know your ex and you know my ex. And the big problem that I had and you had with her is we didn't have any fun, did we?" And I said, "You're right. We're going to have fun. We're going to have," and we did. We had fun, and she was a very wise individual. We're going to have fun. And are we going to have maybe a spat once in a while? Yep. You know what we're doing? We're going to clean it up real quick, and we're going to get back to having fun. How does that sound? You got it, and it worked. But there again, you've got to have that partner, someone who's willing to work with you, someone who values you. And true love, to me, is when those values that you have and the other person has, and they come together to where actually all you see is one value. That's what love is, because you share the same values. That's what love's about. And once again, it's non-judgmental. We don't judge each other. We love each other. And it doesn't get any more complicated than that. Keep it simple.
If someone wants to purchase your book, where can they purchase your book from?
Amazon. Amazon. And once again, it's a two-way. Can I read something very quickly?
Yeah.
Okay. It's a conversation about two individuals. And I want to touch upon real quick here is how do I say? I got into when Jesus talked about seek the kingdom of God, and I kept thinking, well, it appears in the four Gospels more than 80 times. It appears he valued it more than anything, but there's no description of it. So I thought, what would that be like? What would how would I know when I get there? What does it look like? Bottom line, John and Noah, they're having a discussion, and Jesus said, "Be ye perfect like the Father in heaven is perfect." A perfect state of mind is your gateway to the kingdom of God, also known as the kingdom of heaven, said Noah. How do you know when you reach the kingdom? I mean, how would you describe it? Replied John. There was a long pause as Noah collected his thoughts and then turned to John and said, picture, if you can, an inner calm so complete that nothing is wanting. There are no internal or external conflicts. It's a non-judgmental state that's passionate about creating, open to change, and in order, where all things are added to you. Added to you in what way? Asked John. Is your body at ease? Is your mind free to think of wondrous things when you're anxious or upset? Will others invite you to break bread when you judge and curse them? No, of course not. A mindset like that wouldn't add or attract to anyone or anything, but it doesn't seem fair, Noah. Having to monitor what God gave us is like buying a new car that constantly needs fixing. So anyway, that's my interpret of what the kingdom of God is. If that inner calm, no judgment.
I can't wait to get my copy of your book. You bring so much wisdom and so much insight. Thank you so much for coming on Off Balance and blessing my listeners with your wisdom. And if anyone wants to purchase his book, please make sure that you go on Amazon. So again, Richard, thank you so much. You have been a pleasure.
You're welcome. And may your life have a lot of balance. We're on out.
Hi, I'm Tiffany of Tiffany Brown Designs. With over 20 years of creative experience across industries, I create and elevate brands one design at a time through intentional graphic and brand design, polished film and video editing, and creative artistry. Even the music you're hearing right now, that was produced by me. I also create custom tracks for websites, intros and outros, and content. So what are you waiting for? Visit TiffanyCBrownGD.com and let's bring your vision to life.